Hello everyone, you are listening to the C3 Panel, a comic book review and discussion podcast. My name is Fahed Rahman, and today I am joined by Lucia Kitsune Art. She is an Italian comic artist and illustrator based in London. She has exhibited and collaborated with Treviso Comic Book Festival and Luca Comics and Games when she lived in Italy. In the UK, she published some comics with Hellbound Media, and she's been part of various international zine projects and anthology. Last year, she published her original comic, Midnight Heart, a murder mystery with a twist set in Victoria, London, at the turn of the 19th century, featuring a cursed mummy, a glimpse into ancient Egypt, a queer love story. Midnight Heart gained positive reviews from Broken Frontier and AP2
is our place to hold your cape.
Yeah. And is available online at our website and at conventions she'll be attending in 2022 and at Gosh Comics in London. How are you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for having me. I'm good.
Pleasure to have you here. And today we are going to be reviewing Renegade Rule.
Yeah.
The Manhattan Mist have beaten the odds to land themselves at the National Championships for Renegade Rule, one of the hottest virtual reality games in existence. But they are in for competition fiercer than any that they ever imagined, and one team member entire future could be at stake. 4 queer female friends will have to play harder than ever against self-doubt, infighting, romantic distraction, and a slew of other world-class teams if they help to become champions. This is from Ben Kahn Rachel Silverstein, and the art is by Sam Beck, and they describe this book as a celebration of friendship, competition, queer identity, and the insane things that we do for the people that we love. Thank you to Rachel. She sent me this advanced review copy sometime during the pandemic, and I've just not had the opportunity to review it. So thank you, Rachel, for sending this over to me. What were your kind of initial impressions of the book?
Well, honestly, the first impression was that it was very queer, and when I say very queer, it's just like most of every character was queer, and it was a really nice surprise, honestly. Even if they said that the main characters were queer, I was not expecting basically most of all of them to be. And also another thing is that I think it's very, very American, the story. So
yes,
I don't know if you can relate on that. But yeah, all the kind of, the show and all the virtual reality, but also the way they were always fighting and just making a fight to make it also during the game, before the various games. Just bantering between the characters and even saying we should, give a good show for the people. So I find it very, very American in a way. But it was interesting. Honestly, I really liked it. It was really nice. And the only thing is, I'm an hopeless romantic, so I would have preferred if there was more focus on the love stories of the various characters or the love interesting instead of, focusing on the game. But I understand that, they probably wanted it to be more an action thing, not really a love story thing. That is my only thing, saying I really liked the characters, so I wanted to know more about, what could have happened with them, and because there was a lot of characters, and the 4 protagonists were all different and interesting, so I would have liked to have more for them. That's the thing.
It's quite interesting that you say it's quite American. The impression that I got is that this was very much what's the word I'm looking for, that the creators took a lot of inspiration for kind of Japanese sports mangas. This is a team of misfits that are coming together to take on a rival team that's kind of a higher pedigree. So I kind of that's kind of my initial impression of it.
I think it was more on the setting of because it feels like a reality show kind of.
Yes.
Because there was someone that was the presenter of the thing. So it's this kind of video game that you can play on a virtual reality, but the players are part of this kind of TV show. So
Yeah.
there's like I don't know. I feel like it's an American format now. I mean, nowadays you can find it in every television, but I think it started
Yeah.
like American. And also the presenter is really, I don't know, always doing these jokes every time before the game starts, and I don't know, it felt
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
very American to me. So it reflects the fact that all the writers are American. So
Let's get into the story then. So,
Mhm.
the Manhattan Mist are a team that play this game, Renegade Rule, which is like a Fortnite style game that's played in virtual reality.
Mhm.
And our leads are Sasha, who is a healer, Jesse, who is a sniper, Amanda, who's like the team
Captain.
captain. I couldn't quite figure out what her archetype in the game
Yeah,
was. And then you've
you
got
just say that she's a team captain, and I was like,
yeah,
okay,
team
fair
captain.
enough.
Yeah, and then we've got Tonya, who is a tank, and they play around a little bit with what you'd expect those character archetypes within the game to have with the characters themselves. So, like, Sasha is a very brash person
Yeah,
who's constantly frustrated with her teammates dying.
yeah,
Tonya's a tank, but she's kind of very reserved and shy about approaching people.
yeah. In the real life, yeah.
Yeah, and Amanda, I think out of all of them, probably fulfills like the captain archetype the
Yeah.
most out of all those different characters. How did you feel the interrelationships between the four leads worked?
Well, in terms of characters, I think the one I relate the most was Tonya as
Yeah,
personality, because
yeah,
she's. I mean, I like the fact that she was really a nerd for the game, so she was writing fan fiction for it, and she was always update with the lore of the game. So I find it really relatable as thing. Like, and also it was nice that she was kind of always a disaster queer. Like in real life, she's really not really thinking that she should be there. Like she has a bit of imposter syndrome, and but it's nice that she managed to overcome it during the whole arc of the story a bit. I really like it also Tasha, and how she's really always angry and she's always cursing at her teammates just not to die, as you said. And I think it's really cute. And also I like the contrast between her and Tonya, because she is kind of
yeah.
the womanizer of the team, like the one that she really can have any girl she wants, while Tonya, she tries but she's always super awkward. So
Yeah, I think one of my favorite sequences in the book is where Sasha uses this like pickup line on
yeah,
a
yeah,
girl, and
yeah.
then and then Tonya tries to use exactly
Yeah,
the same one, and it doesn't work. So I really
exactly,
like
exactly.
that kind of like interrelationship of those two
Yeah,
characters
yeah, that
as
was
well.
really cute. And yeah, I mean, I loved also the other ones, but yeah, I mean, Amanda, I think is really like also the kind of main character with her own motivations, and the team leader and everything. And Jessie is really, I don't know. I really
Yeah,
love that she has a boyfriend, and they are both bisexual, and they were just always thirsting of others. So it was really refreshing to see something like that. I mean, being in a relationship, but also being able to joke, not joke, because you never know if they were just like serious about it, or it was just like pretending to say, but that they were like just like really
yeah.
open in their relationship, and that was really really nice.
It took me a little while to realize what was kind of like
Yeah.
going on there,
Also, it was
and I was just, oh, okay, that's what's
yeah.
happening. Okay, now I kind of
Yeah,
understand.
but it
Yeah.
was funny also
Um,
that none of them remembered the name of the boyfriend, and I think it was never mentioned.
yes.
So they were like, okay,
Yeah.
they're 1 year they are together, and still we don't know, and now it's too late to ask. That was cute, yeah.
So I think most of like the emotional depth comes from the stakes of the final.
Yeah,
Amanda's mother is quite ill, so they need, because it's based in
yeah,
America. They
exactly.
don't have like
That's also one
healthcare.
of the aspects that I was saying. Yeah, it's really American.
Yes, like kind of like taking a page out of Breaking Bad. She needs the money for
Yeah.
treatment. I wasn't entirely clear. I don't think they said what Amanda's mother was
No,
affected
no,
with,
they leave it
did they?
vague.
So she's just
So
generally
yeah,
ill. Yeah, just general fictional
yeah.
illness.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it seemed
whatever that is.
something really serious that she needed
Yeah,
some really expensive cures, so
yeah,
she really
yeah.
needed to win this game, to win all the money, basically.
Yeah, so I quite liked what they did with Amanda's character. She's like really driven and she wants to win, but this subplot where she's quite attractive to the captain of the other
Yeah,
team, that's an object in the way of her achieving her
yeah,
overall good goals. So I found that was kind of brought a lot of interesting emotional
yeah.
conflict into the
Yeah,
story as
that
well.
was interesting as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about the kind of like dialogue? I found this it was kind of quite a funny book
Yeah, honestly, I
to read.
mean, they
Yeah.
used a lot of young slang. So at the first
Yeah.
read, I was like, oh, okay, okay. It was really,
Yeah.
really slang. And then, I mean, on the second read, I was like, okay, yeah, it gets to you. But at the beginning, you're not expecting, I mean, I was not expecting it to be like this full of slang. So, but I think it worked. I
Yeah.
mean, because for the age of the characters and also to keep it really relatable, I think it was a nice idea to make it also all this bantering and all this kind of, one saying something and the other is replying, just like trying to get over the others. And I mean, some bits
Yeah.
also was really, really nice, honestly. When they were calling one of the enemy teams, that she was dressed like a witch,
Yeah.
and Sasha was
Yeah.
saying the Bitch of the West instead of the Witch of the West.
Yeah.
That was really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I found
yeah,
that kind of doing the kind of witty dialogue like this that works in comics. I write myself. It's really not that
exactly.
easy.
I know.
It's really tricky to kind of like do. And I don't think I mentioned who the letterer was. I think quite a lot of credit needs to go to them as well. So the letters were by Jim
Hmm.
Campbell. So I think he did quite a good
Yeah.
job of lettering the comics, so like all the jokes and the gags worked really well and kind of
Yeah.
nailing the emotional moments quite well. I don't think it's not like a spectacular job in terms of doing anything too revolutionary, but I think they did a really
No,
good
yeah,
job of just
honestly,
kind of making
also,
sure that the dialogue worked well.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
there was a good balance between like keeping it kind of serious and keeping it, more, as you said, basically more interesting in everything without even
yeah.
becoming too much. So it was nice.
So we've talked quite a lot about the story and kind of the nature of the characters. What did you think about the art, the kind of like coloring, layout, all that sort of stuff? I'm always kind of quite interested when I speak to
Yeah.
artists and
No, I
kind of
think
what if there's stuff that I'm missing out on and stuff
I
like
think
that.
Sam did a really good job, because I think, like, I was thinking, I mean, if I wish if it was the one that I had to draw these, I mean, there was a lot of challenging scenes. So, I mean, I think she did really well, and also the coloring is really nice. Also, I mean, the character design, I really liked the dresses that she gave to Sasha in particular, the one that she has during the game, but also, I mean, the kind of style she has. Also, another thing that I liked is that they also have distinctive styles in the way they are portrayed, like the clothing and everything. So that also is a good thing, I think, when you are an artist, to make the characters stand out by their own. Like, I mean, you see that Sasha is more the one that is more dark lady, or just like with the leather jacket, or when she's in the game she has this long coat that is super cute. And Tonya, when she is in the game, she's more like, with the spikes and everything, but when she's in the real life, she has these super cute clothes. So I think that also Jessie, that she's really a chill person, and she has this beanie and, this super laid back style. I think it reflects really the kind of characters they have, and also the difference that they between when they are in game and when they are in the real life. So I think it was really cool.
A nice
Yeah,
juxtaposition. I think there was a lot of creative challenges with this one because obviously you've got the real world or then you've got the virtual world. One criticism I maybe have of the virtual world is I think they could have maybe taken a few more like creative
yeah,
liberties in terms of making either the characters look slightly different to the way they look
yeah.
in real life, or the wilder, more strange world designs? Because like Fortnite, games like Fortnite and PUBG and all these other kind of antagonistic like team versus player games do have wildly different looking like environments. So I was just wondering, what would you have done something like slightly different there to make the virtual world look more like a virtual world? Do you think like the direction that they went in was a good one, just to make it
I
seem
think, I
like
mean, like this
you,
is more cohesive, all the things. I
yeah,
mean, without having, a stark contrast between the things that happens in the virtual reality and the normal reality. I don't know. I mean, I think it works well in terms like of not having this super contrast.
yeah,
Maybe I don't know. I mean, I understand that they didn't have much space and everything, so
yeah,
uh, like the idea. I mean, probably we're gonna arrive there in the future in the idea that you just have to put a pair of goggles and just sit in your chair and do absolutely. I mean, not moving yourself and being all in your mind and do the things in your mind. So maybe I don't know. I
yeah,
would have probably show them like the virtual reality works now. So maybe in an environment where they have a mask and you see them like ready to move in their space, but moving while they're doing the
yeah,
virtual reality. Because like this, I
yeah,
mean, of course, it's simple and it's more faster because there is a lot of to tell and not enough space in the book. But I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe I would have done that different, probably just to make it more like it's now.
yeah,
But for the rest, I think it
yeah,
worked fine. Also, maybe I think it was a stylistic choice just to keep the ambient of the game similar to the normal reality, to make it
yes.
more like,
I
I
mean,
mean, that it was not in a
yeah,
alien planet is something that can be in the earth. So it can be the jungle, it can be
yeah.
an abandoned store fabric. So
I mean, just as a writer, kind of a lot of my questions after while I was reading it, I didn't kind of have these questions, but after I finished, as kind of like the questions that was kind of floating around in my head that were kind of generated from the art is kind of, well, what is so attractive about this virtual reality game if it looks really similar to kind of the real world? Because people, when they go into virtual reality, I imagine they want to go to these. It's like they, Avatar the film.
mhm.
They want to go to these spectacular
Yeah,
vistas,
but I
and
think there was some
it
of the
looks realistic. But
sorry,
maybe,
there
yeah,
was some of the
yeah. So
characters
go ahead.
that were just like not human at some point.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's true.
So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's probably what you decide. So maybe, I mean, they didn't want it to be, aliens or whatever. I mean, the four characters, they just wanted to be the
Yeah.
cooler version of those themselves. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah. I
probably
mean,
what
that's
I mean,
that's
from my point of view, I mean, also I would probably, if I could be in a virtual reality, just like, be the cooler version of myself, but not being an alien.
Oh, I was watching this really. There's this show on the BBC called Click, and they do like quite a lot of like
Hmm.
techie stuff, and um, they did like a little bit on like virtual reality, and kind of off that I went to watch this YouTube channel called People Make Games, and they talk to a lot of like virtual reality creators, and apparently just because of like the bootstrap nature of like some of this stuff, a lot of people like that do are kind of male developers that kind of like develop these kind of like virtual reality worlds, but they kind of just end up like using like female anime avatars because they're just really readily
Uh-huh.
available. So it's kind of like, it would have been like, for me it would have been really interesting if they kind of maybe played around
Yeah,
with um that sort of
that also
stuff
could have been nice
as well.
to
Yeah,
change the kind of style of drawing that would be.
yeah,
Could be, yeah, could have been
yeah, yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
So I think one of the things the artist does really well is kind of like the action sequences. You get this. It's quite tricky because you do get, when you're doing action sequences, like the key thing is you need to kind of like know where the characters are in
Hmm.
space and time and in relation to each other, and they do that quite
Yeah,
well here. Kind of, you always get the
yeah,
idea of like, oh, the objectives over there, um
yeah.
kind of like the way that the fights are choreographed, I thought were quite
Yeah, it
good
was easy to
as
follow. I
well.
mean, it was never a point where we were like, oh, what they are doing here. So for that, I mean, she was really, really good.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking about it for about 20 minutes now. I think, like for me, I enjoyed it. I'm not too sure whether I'd kind of like pick up the second trade paperback or not. Like for me, like the journey of these four characters was kind of like quite nicely resolved, and I'm not all that curious about what happens to them next. How did you kind of
I
like
mean,
feel
as I
about?
said, if the next session is more focused on the characters and their love interest and their love story, like if they're gonna let us know more about Tonya and Sasha, or also Amanda and Gabby, that is the other love interest, I would
Yeah,
definitely be interested to know more. But then,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's kind of like the sports kind of like competitive virtual
yeah.
gaming side of it didn't really
Um,
get his teeth
I
in.
mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, it's probably not really the focus that I'm more interested. But still,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
interesting. I mean, as an idea and to have the story go along. But I think like they really put a lot of things inside. I mean, hinted a lot of love stories or things. I mean, that were happening between the characters. So I will be interesting to know more. I mean, of all the things that they put just hinted in this chapter. So, is it confirmed that there's going to be another one?
I I should actually have done my research on that. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that there might be. I mean, it's from Dark Horse
Mhm.
Comics, and they've done three
Yeah,
paperback.
because
Yeah, I'd need to
at
do my
some point it
yeah.
seemed also that there was something before, because if it felt like, I mean, there could have been already something with these characters. So I was not sure if there was just like, even a number before this one.
No, I think this is the
Yeah,
first collection of stories that's come out
yeah, yeah, yeah.
regarding these characters. So yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think
I think
they have space to do more. So
yeah,
I think it would be
cool.
interesting
So I think
to read, definitely.
yeah, okay. So I think that's kind of a recommendation from both of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Really cool. So let's talk about your yeah, about yourself and kind of like your comic.
hmm
So when did you first kind of like decide that you wanted to start making comics and get into art and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I think it was. I mean, I wanted to do this even after finishing high school, and I really, I mean, was interested in this. But then at the time, I didn't have kind of the guts to move to from my city to Milan. That at that time it was just a place where you had all the schools where you could do comics and this kind of stuff. So I just found a normal job and just keep it as a side thing. And yeah, I mean, then I decided to move to London, and it's still a side things because it's not really my job. But now at least I have a part time job, so I can have more time also to spend on my comics. But definitely, I mean, I took the long way and I did a lot of things, but in the end, I mean, comics is just the tool that I really like to express my feelings, because I like to write stories and I like drawing. So I think it's the best medium for me to express the things that I want to say. So that's basically
Yeah, I
it.
think yeah, I think that's yeah, I think that's the one thing that draws a lot of people to comics is kind of like that mixture of like text and
Yeah.
image. Um, like can I just like quickly ask you about like the comic book scene in Italy? Kind of what is that like? Is it kind of superhero focused, or is it a lot broader than that? Is it kind of similar to Japan and France, where there's kind of like a wide variety of titles available?
Yeah, I
What's
think
kind of like what was
it's
that
more
like?
similar to France, because we have kind
Yeah,
of the same vibe that they have. I mean, and the kind of things available. But yeah, I mean, there is a lot of manga influence, because I mean we also had a lot of in the 90s we had a lot of animes in the television, public television. So
Yeah.
we really, I mean, all my generation and the one after me, I mean, we are all influenced by anime and manga. So you have a lot of mangas, you have a lot of Western comics. So yeah, there is a bit of everything, to be honest, and there is a lot of also of artists that now are publishing kind of um, European mangas. So it's
Yeah.
becoming a thing. Yeah.
And kind of, I don't know if you've noticed about like what people think about comics in the UK. It's not really seen. It's still, there's still kind of like that the attitude towards them. Oh, that's something for kids. Is that
Yeah.
similar in Italy, or is it kind of like it's just a book that you
I
read?
think, I mean, it's becoming better for sure. I mean, because we also, I mean, there is still the stigma that comics is for just for kids and that's it. But I think
Mhm.
it's becoming is going a long way. I mean, it's not at the level that France is, where I mean, comics are like literature and they are really, I mean, well regarded. But still, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a bit more widely recognized now. I mean, there is a lot of comics convention as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
we're
it's
getting
such a
there.
real shame because there's so many great Italian comic book
Yeah.
artists. I was doing I was recording a podcast the other week, and it's what was the book called? It's called The Spider, and both the artists on that worked on it were Italian, and like but the person I recorded it with couldn't find any information about
Hmm.
them whatsoever, and it kind of just kind of broke it. It's like a reprint of like these comic strips from like the
Yeah.
1950s. So yeah, it was kind of like yeah. Anyway, so you kind of spoke about manga being quite a big influence on your
Definitely.
generation.
Yeah.
What other kind of like stylistic
Yeah.
influences um, uh, kind of have had an effect on kind of the way that you draw and you write and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff?
Yeah, 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 definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm born with manga. I mean, back in the days, I wanted to be a mangaka, but then, you grow up and then you
yeah,
realize that, I mean, it's not really that easy, and level of commitment you need to do. I mean, if you want to, move to Japan and just like draw every day, I mean, I don't know, 12
yeah.
hours a day. I mean, it's really a lot. So,
Yeah, well, actually, one of my friends, he lives in Japan. He visited
hmm.
London recently, and he actually works full time as a well, not full time. He works as a manga artist out in
Hmm.
Japan, and it was really interesting listening to kind of his
Yeah.
experience about it because he wants to eventually at some point move back to the UK, but he says in Japan everything is done kind of like face to
Yeah.
face and face to face meetings and having that personal connection with like editors and stuff like that is really
Yeah.
important. And yes, it is kind of he's kind of struggling with that at the moment, and especially because he's not
Yeah.
Japanese. He's British. Is kind of like that's another. He didn't say it was another barrier that he has to cross, but it's kind of
No,
like
I mean, it's difficult.
it's quite
It's difficult because they can be
yeah
open. I mean, I mean, they can like your work and everything, but there is still a bit of, you are not Japanese. So, I mean, whatever you do, I
yeah
mean, you have to do it, 10 times better than a Japanese person
yeah
to be at least,
yeah.
recognized. So it's really hard.
Yeah. So, what is your creative process like? Do you start with a script, or is it images? Kind of how does that work
Yeah, usually if
for
I
you?
have an idea, at least, I mean, first I write the synopsis down, and then I try to put down a script. So just kind of thinking how I want to divide the various scene in the pages, and then I do the storyboard and see, I mean, how they work together, and then I go on with the inking and the definitive, and just like deciding if I want to do with if colors is best or if it's black and white is best. Like for Midnight Heart, I think it was having black and white was fitting with the story, since that the theme was Victorian times and ancient Egypt. So it kind of depends also on the kind of story that I'm that I want to design, basically.
Okay, and what is the creative process? Is it paper or digital?
I'm doing
How
everything
does how?
digitally at the moment because I've seen that
Okay,
it works better for me because it's easy to find the references and also to draw the things and delete them and then draw them again instead of doing on paper. And then I tend to be really heavy with my hands, so if I have
okay,
to erase many times, then it makes the process not really enjoyable anymore. Unless if you're digital, it's easier, so you can control D and you cancel everything.
okay. That's really interesting. Where do you draw? So one of my previous interviews was with someone who's an illustrator, and he says he kind of takes his iPad out to the park and he'll do his work out there. Do you have a specific space
No,
where
no,
you work, or is it kind of like everywhere, anywhere,
I
or
wish I could be
that
that
sort of
kind
thing?
of person that can take the iPad and just go anywhere. But
Yeah,
the place where I'm more productive is just on my desk.
yeah,
I have an iPad, but I feel that I'm working best with my graphic tablet still. So I prefer
yeah.
to use that. And as program, I usually use Clip Studio Paint that is specifically designed for comics. You can do illustrations and other stuff, but it's a program that I think it's coming from Japan. It's used a lot in Japan also for mangas. But I think
Yeah.
it's really really good also in terms of setting up also the files and everything, because you can say already, okay, it's going to be 20 pages, so you already create the file with all the pages and where you want the thing to be, like the two pages together and then the others, so you can have already an idea even before you start, and how the pages is going to be and where you have to turn and everything. So I think it's really really cool and makes the process easier as well.
Okay, that's actually you're not the first person who's kind of mentioned that. So I think that's kind of quite common.
Yeah, I think.
I hate the word say solution, but kind of like it's a common way that a common method that people use to approach making
Yeah,
comics.
I think it's easier than, because I think the program itself is created with a comic artist in mind. So like while Photoshop, you can use it for photos or for whatever else. It could work as well, but it doesn't have these little things that make it easier to do. So also it give you also a preview, like of how the book is gonna be like. It gives you really the video in 3D and how it's gonna be. So that's really cool.
Okay, okay, cool. So let's talk about Midnight Heart. Kind of how did that first kind of like how did that idea first kind of like come about?
Basically, at the beginning, the very beginning, it was a pitch that I submitted for an anthology that was called Sapphic Shivers. So they wanted to have stories that has some kind of horror in it. And of course, I was not selected. But in Inside, I think like the story is not really that horror; is more like a murder mystery. So I really liked the idea, and it started, I think, basically from the ancient Egypt, where you have um, the thing about the heart that doesn't have to be removed from the body. So I think that is what started the whole story. And then I really like Victorian times. I really like Sherlock Holmes and all these things. So they all kind of created together, and also I wanted something that could be created in a short amount of pages, because the initial pitch that I had to give, I had to stay in 10 pages, but I realized that I couldn't really say everything I wanted to say in 10 pages, so it became something that is 30 pages. And but still I wanted a story that could be meaningful, but also be in a reasonable amounts of pages that it could be achievable. And I don't know. I mean, you read it, so I don't know if I did a good job with it, but I think
Yeah, I think you, in terms of like nailing the Victorian aesthetic, I thought it was paced beautifully,
thank you.
and kind of the art was quite good, as well, in terms of the way you what was the note that I made here? Yeah, just the way that you kind of place the
Hmm.
panels. I kind of quite enjoyed that kind of the copy I've got as a PDF, kind of that black
Yeah,
background. Is that the same as in the print version as well? Kind of
yeah,
like the black
yeah.
background.
It's
Okay, I
everything
kind of
in black except from the flashback that is in white
yeah.
colors.
Yeah. So I really kind of enjoyed that, and that, the contrast with like the way that you, I mean, there's one particular section where the there's, I don't say it's confrontation, but two of the main
Hmm.
characters meet, and the way there's kind of, Egyptian hieroglyphs are in the background, and how that contrasts with the characters in the foreground is something I
Hmm.
quite enjoyed,
Thank you.
um, as well. How long did this kind of take you from kind of conception to final product? How long did it kind of take for you to kind of finish it?
I think,
Or
I mean, this one was basically a pandemic baby. So
okay,
I had more time during the first lockdown when everything was kind of, stopped. So I still had to work, but still I had also more time to work on it. So I don't know. I think it was like 6 months, maybe 8 months.
okay,
But yeah,
okay,
I had to work on it like anyway on my spare time, because as I said, I'm not a full time comic artist at the moment, so
okay.
I had to balance it
And
with all the other stuff that pays the rent.
okay, and yeah, that pays the rent,
Yeah,
which is kind of quite
yeah,
important, um, as well. You do need
and
to
food
have
on the table.
roof
Yeah,
and electricity, yeah, and food on the table and
exactly.
stuff. So you kind of mentioned that you'd kind of drawn to like
Mhm.
Victorian themes and Victorian aesthetics. Kind of what other themes are you drawn to kind of
I
creatively?
really like magic, tattoos, music, in particularly alternative music and this kind of stuff. And it's probably things that I will explore in my next projects. But I mean, what I really like also is, as I said before, I am a hopeless romantic, so I really like relationships between characters, and so particularly queer love stories and LGBT themes. So this kind of stuff is really what I really like to explore in my comics, basically.
Okay, it's interesting how many people mention music when I talk to them about like things that inspire them, as
Yeah,
well, because in my head at least, kind of like comics is such a, like, there's no sound there. It's kind of
I
such a
know.
visual, it's such a visual kind of medium, but like a lot of artists that I've spoken
Yeah.
to do mention kind of music. And one of the books that we reviewed earlier on was basically a comic book interpretation of this like heavy metal album, and so it's kind of like, it's really interesting
Yeah.
um,
No, I don't know. I think
how those
for
two mediums
me
interact.
personally, it's probably because I used to be in a band. I used to sing,
Yeah,
so I kind of have had these first-hand experience on how to write music, and just like performing on a on a show, on a gig. So
yeah,
like one of the things that I really would like to be able to create is just some using my experience to create a story that has maybe a band or something. I mean, to
yeah,
in the story, and I mean, and that is something that is happening between the characters, but that also involves music. Just because I have, I mean, a kind of background on it, so I could, you know, use it for good.
Yeah. So does Midnight Heart have like a playlist that we should maybe be listening to
Um,
while reading it, or is that
Not really.
is
I
that
don't
not
think
something
I
that you have
create
yet? Yeah.
a playlist for Midnight Heart because that is, I mean, I usually, I mean, my kind of things are more like alternative metal, you know, this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they really fit with with Midnight Heart. But I
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
a music that I think it was, I don't even remember when I find it, but I had the I think it was a stock thing. But I did also a short kind of, how can you say it, a video of the comic to present the comic, just to,
Yeah.
so that kind, you know, of vibe that is music that is just like from murder mystery, so something, you know, ethereal,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you know, having some of oh my god, what's gonna happen, so that kind of vibe.
Yeah. Uh, so like, how much research did you kind of have to do into Midnight Heart in terms of making sure that the period details were correct and stuff around
I
um,
definitely,
like the
yeah.
sarcophagus and stuff like that? Was that kind of quite a detailed, time-intensive process for
Yeah,
you?
honestly, I mean, I try to find a lot of references in terms of Victorian costumes, but also in terms of how to, because there is a flashback in the ancient Egypt, also about like temples, architectures, and, you know, all the kind of gods and the kind of dress that they had at the time and everything. And also I wanted to be as you know, accurate as possible, and like not being whitewashing or whatever, just like, you know, just try to be mindful of the readers and of the period. And I was very happy when it happened that during a convention, one girl was coming to my stall, to the, and she was Egyptian, so it was like, okay, oh, okay, so yeah, if you read this, please, I mean, let me know if it's, if I, you know, if I did everything good, if you have anything to tell me about it that I could have done better. And she was actually very kind, and she sent me an email after she read it, and she was really, I mean, saying to me that I really did a good job, and she felt like, you know,
Oh, that's lovely.
thanks.
Yeah.
No, but she also was mentioning this fact that I did not whitewash the characters, and I tried, you know, to be very accurate on the things. So having someone
Yeah.
that is from Egypt that telling you that, I mean, it was really, you know, something really that touches my heart, and I was like, okay, cool. So I did good.
Yeah, that's kind of lovely to
Yeah,
hear
I
when you
was
get
really
that
happy.
sort of figure. So you started going to Comic
Yeah,
Cons again, kind of. Were you at
yeah, I was at the
uh
MCM
the latest
in May.
at the MCM? How did that go? How did that
It
go for
went
you?
very well, honestly. I was impressed that it was really, I mean, a lot of people, and they were all, I mean, really interested to speak with you and just like, you know, to buy your stuff and to and like at the things. So I think it was my best convention so far. So I cannot really, you know, complain about anything. So it was, and also it's always a
Okay,
joy,
and
honestly, to be there and to have people, I mean, coming to you and just like, you're like, oh yeah, if you know, if you like this this is my original comic, blah blah blah, and they are actually interested in buying it. So it's always, I don't know, something really rewarding to me, because I never give it for granted that people like my stuff. So it's really
okay.
a good feeling.
And are you planning on going to any other Comic Cons in the future? Kind of like things like Thought Bubble or anything like that. I think there's the South London
Um,
Zine Fest as
yeah,
well
I
in
wanted
July. Yeah.
to go there. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna be in London at the end of July, because probably I'm gonna be on holiday. But yeah, definitely, I want to go to Tough Bubble. I was trying to. I mean, I applied to have a table, but I think they had really too many applications and are already
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
people that from 2021 didn't go, and they're like, okay, we're gonna give you the place in 2022. So like I think 3/4 of the of the available space was already from people, moving from one year to the other. So there was really no chance even for a half a table. But I want to go. I mean, I've never been there, and I know it's basically the place to be. I mean, for the comic scene in the UK. So I'm really curious to go. I mean, Leeds is a bit far, so I need to arrange the journey. But I think I really want to go,
Yeah.
and I hope I'm gonna be at the MCM in October as well. And
Yeah.
and yeah, it's already confirmed that I'm gonna be at the AnimeCon in February. So yeah, I really look
Okay,
forward.
that's really really
Yeah,
exciting.
definitely.
In terms of kind of we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, kind of balancing uh the responsibilities of like paying
Yeah.
rent with creative doing like the creative projects. Are there any like tips or tricks or advice that you can give to people that are in a similar position
I mean, I
to
think
you?
everything, I mean, every situation is a bit different. Like in my situation, I'm lucky to have a part-time job that is an office job. So it's not really, I mean, maybe demanding, and at the same time that it can be one that is in the hospitality. So it's just like, but sometimes it can be really taxing on the mental capacity. So it's really hard on the daily to switch off from your job and say, okay, this is done, closed, and now I have to to focus on my creative side. So that is that is difficult to maintain. The things that works for me is setting up deadlines. So for example, if I know that I'm going to be at a convention, I'm like, okay, I know that I have to finish to do this for that convention. So I need to be able to print it before. So I need to say, okay, I have to do this so I can present it to the convention. I can have the copies available, and is a good motivation to me. But then yeah, it depends on if that works for me. But I don't know if it works for everyone. So that is the
Yeah.
only advice that I can give. Just give that, having deadlines, and try to be present, and just like trying to do something every day. And even if maybe you don't feel like to, but anything, I mean, even if it's not working on your comic, at least just, I don't know, do a fan art, or just like do some sketches. Just keep your hand occupied, so it becomes something that you can do also when you don't want to, or you don't feel like to.
Yep. So I'm just a last few questions, and I'll kind of let you go. So, in terms of the comics that you like to create, is your preference for long form, short form, medium form? Where would like your
I
preference
mean,
kind of like lie?
more than a preference, is I think is just like a necessity. So I
Yeah.
mean, for the moment, what works for me is short form. So
Yeah.
I think it would be, I mean, I would love to do something like this 200, 300 pages, a super long project. But I mean, I think it would be daunting for me to to have to do all that work on top of my normal work. So having
Yeah.
short stories that I'm like, okay, this is manageable, I can do it, and then I can always leave the door open to do more. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be, I mean, I like to create story that can work as one shot, but at the same time you can leave space if you want to explore more. If you want to have this character do something else, you can still do it later. So uh, if you want. So I think for me, what works best at the moment is this. But then yeah, I hope I could
Yeah.
be able also to do more things. Or anyway, I think yeah, if it has to be a long project, the key is always dividing it in small chunks. So also, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, the first chapter, blah blah blah. So it's like 40 pages. Okay, done. And then maybe that one you can print it, and you can have the first bit, and then going on. And so you also see the physical, re- um, reward of having the copy, even if it's just the first chapter. So that is what works for me.
Yeah. And what are you working on at the moment? Can you tell us
Yeah.
anything about that, or is it kind of top secret?
It's not really
Yeah.
top secret. I just posted on Instagram the other day the character design of the new story I'm working on. Is a short story as well, is a one shot. And this time I'm collaborating with an American writer. So it's going to be not only me on the writing part, but there is also this other writer. And it's going to be a slice of life, sapphic love story as well. And it's basically childhood friends to lovers. So that is what it's going to be. And it's going to be set in the US. And
Okay, that sounds interesting. When do you think that's going to be completed?
well,
When can we expect to
at the
kind of see it? Is it kind of very much in the early
it's
stages,
kind
and
of in
we have to
on
watch this
the early
space?
stages because we just finished the
Yeah,
script and I'm gonna have to do the storyboard. But I hope that it's not gonna take me too long to finish it.
yeah,
So I mean I don't know if realistically it's feasible, but I mean for next year February it would be nice to have it already, or if it's not for February, maybe
yeah.
for May for the MCM in May.
And
That kind of a deadline that I put in myself. But at the same time, I don't want to rush or just like super
yeah,
stress myself. So that is
yeah.
the tentative deadline.
And yeah, and how are you finding collaborating? Is this like the first time that you've done it, or is it a process that you
No,
enjoy?
I mean I collaborated already for other stories, also for the ones that
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yes, of
for the
course. Yeah,
Hellbound
yeah,
Media. One story was written from Mark Adams, that is one of the guys that run the Hellbound Media publishing, and the other one was written by a friend. So I really like collaborating. Honestly, I really like to have total control on my stuff, but at the same time I really love to have to work with a writer, or I never had the chance to work with someone on the drawing part as well, like dividing. I don't know. I do the characters, you do the background, this kind of stuff. But
yeah,
for what concerned the writing part, I mean, I really love collaborating because I think if you find the right person, that it's pure joy because you both are motivated on that and just like can push each other to do the things, and to have someone that you're like, okay, I did this, and she can check or they can check and just like give you feedback, immediate feedback, and just like being the first person excited on what you're doing. I think it's the best feeling. So I'm always open for collaborating with other people.
great. So just basically last 3 questions. What have you been reading lately?
So, for in terms of comics, printed comics, I'm reading Monstress. I don't know if you know it.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's we've kind of reviewed
Oh,
the
cool.
first like 4 trade paperbacks.
Cool.
So yeah, beautifully
Yes, I
written,
love it.
just unbelievable
Yeah.
art.
No, the art is
Like that is
amazing.
just
I'm
like
always like in
yeah, it's,
awe
yeah,
every
yeah,
time. I mean, she's really a big
yeah,
inspiration. Like I wish I
yeah.
could be that good. So that one is really really cool. And I'm reading also Nomen Omen. That is
Not
you
heard
never
of that.
heard? It's published by
No.
Image Comics in the US. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's yes, I think it's available also here, but yeah, I bought it online. But it's from two Italians, the writer and the artist are Italian, Marco Bibucci and Jacopo Camagni, and they are really good. Honestly, it's really an interesting story, and also this one involves magic and bringing basically magic in the normal days, in the actual days, the current days. So it's really really interesting. I haven't finished it yet, but it's really cool. So I recommend it to you.
Yeah.
And
That sounds great.
another one, and this is really also a big inspiration artistically because I really, really love her style. Rosemary Valero O'Connell, and it's called Don't Go Without Me, the last one that I kind of bought at Coach Comic the other day. So it's really, really cool. And then, I think the last thing I read in Italian is Prism by Matteo De Longis. And it's really an amazing story. And I wish it can, publish it also internationally, because it really, the story really, it's really that good and could be really translated also in English. So
I might have to. Okay, I might check that out. That sounds like really familiar. So there's a company called Europe Comics that do translations. That title, that sounds really familiar.
Could be. I mean, I hope they did,
so,
because I didn't check, but I know they did, because I remember they also translated in English a comic of a friend that she usually be with me at the MCM. She's publishing in France, and it's called Magic. And I know they also have it's published in French, so but you can read it in English through Europe Comics. So that is, I think it's really a cool thing that they are doing. Making the things available online in English.
So just the last couple of questions, really. What would success look like for you?
Well, I think, honestly, doing the things you love without having to worry about money and pay the rent, that would be really already a success for me. So, but honestly, even just finishing a comic and having people interested in reading it and letting you know, what they think about it, for me is already a success. So I'm really happy, to be honest.
Okay, that's great. And is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So that's it. So thank you for taking.
Thank you for having me. It was really
speaking to me.
It was really cool to speak to you. Honestly.
Yeah. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at KitsuneArt. My website is KitsuneArt.net. And where else? I think that's it. There is the places where I post the most. So
yeah, cool. So I will include links to your website and social media accounts in the episode description. Guys, please support the podcast by leaving a rating or review wherever you find us. If you could also donate to the tip jar, that helps keep the lights on. We're going to continue doing these reviews of like guest co-hosts while Cole is kind of like sorting out his medical issues. We really appreciate all the love and support, and if you want to get in touch with us with a recommendation, criticism or whatever, you can contact us on email by seethroughpanel@gmail.com. Thank you guys. Let's say bye.
Bye.